Welcome to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. I'm Allie Rose, certified clinical hypnotherapist and subconscious success coach. I help my clients stop self-sabotage and feel safe to create more wealth, worth, and wellness from within. If you find yourself stuck repeating the same unhelpful patterns in your life, health, business, or relationships, even after all the mindset work, this podcast is for you. Each week, you'll hear deep dives into the hidden beliefs shaping your life and live hypno coaching sessions where someone shifts a block in real time. Because willpower isn't the problem, your subconscious story is. And when you shift it at the root, everything else begins to change. So let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. We all carry stories from childhood, and I'm always so fascinated by how people overcome or work through those childhood stories to become the people they are today. So today, I'm going to be speaking with Jill Emanuel. Jill was my financial coach in 2019 when I went through my divorce, and working with her absolutely changed my life in so many ways. I recommend her to everyone I know, and I'm so grateful that we're still connected, and I'm so grateful that she's here today. So, before we dive in, let me properly introduce you to her. Jill Emanuel is a money coach and wealth strategist at Money Coach Jill, a private boutique firm that helps clients think more clearly about money, ask better questions, understand their options, and design a wealth strategy that fits their life, not someone else's version of success. I love that. Welcome, Jill. I'm so excited to have you here to share a bit of your story today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be here as well. I didn't realize until you did that intro that it has been almost 7 years since we met. 2019, like, holy cow, so much time has gone by. And it's such a privilege to still be connected.
I know. I love it. Like I said, you changed my life in so many ways beyond money, but I think it's really because money is involved in every area of your life. So when you changed my life around money, all the other areas of my life changed. So I'm really excited to get to share you and your wisdom with my listeners.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
All right. So we all grow up with stories about money. I have not met one person who does not have a money story and about success, what it means to be successful. So, what was the biggest story that you were told about money and success when you were growing up?
Yeah, it's so interesting to think back to what that story was and maybe what it wasn't. I don't know. Like I think about growing up and there really wasn't a lot of talk about money. So I think my story was like go figure it out. I don't know. Earn more money. That was sort of the story of like if you want to have it, you need to go to college, you need to get a good degree, you need to earn six figures and then you made it. Of course, this was, 25, 30, 35 years ago. I'm aging myself now when six figures meant something. But I I grew up in a very middle-class family. My mom stayed home for most of my upbringing. She did some part-time work here and there, and my dad was mail carrier. And so he, had a really stable job, stable income, but didn't earn a lot. Growing up, I never felt like I wanted for anything necessarily, but we always waited for things. There wasn't a lot of money to go around, but the bills were paid. When we wanted something, our parents would say, "Hey, that's something for Christmas." And we'd wait 6 months in anxious anticipation for the thing that we really wanted, which in a lot of ways I think was kind of wonderful. It was a really great way to grow up. But along with that, there were these periods where when extra money needed to be spent, I would hear my parents say things jokingly like, "Well, that's what credit cards are for." And so I sort of grew up with this idea or this mentality around money of that when there wasn't a lot of money, you used credit cards and that was their purpose in your life. And that ultimately, if you wanted to be successful, you needed to make sure you went to school, got a degree, and could earn a six-figure income. That was what I grew up believing.
Yeah. Okay. And so, how do you think that those stories, when there wasn't a lot of money, you used credit cards, or if you wanted to be successful, you went to school and you got a degree and you got a good job and then you were set. How do you think that
Yeah.
impacted you as you were growing up and then heading out into the world on your own?
Yeah, I mean, it very much influenced my young adulthood period because going to college, I didn't do a lot of introspective work of really thinking about what fulfilled me and what I really wanted to do and the kind of impact that I wanted to make in the world. The things that I entertained were what were the jobs that were out there that would earn six figures that I could do and maybe work part time if someday I wanted to have a family. Like those were the things that I was taking into consideration. And so it's probably not the most effective way to choose a life path.
Right.
And no surprise, I'm not doing the thing that I went to college for, which was to become a pharmacist. I spent 8 years in college, 9 years, because I did like an extra year transitioning into figuring out pharmacy. 9 years, got that degree, worked as a pharmacist for 11 years, hated it for 10 of them. So it very much influenced that decision, though, was that I can make six figures right out of school. I can work part time if I want to and still earn a good income. And along with that, being a college student for 9 years, you're not making any money. And what I believed was when you don't have money, you use credit cards. And so I used credit cards all throughout college. I got myself in debt. My parents bailed me out. I got myself in debt again. My parents bailed me out again. I got myself in debt a third time. They bailed me out a third time. Like, I can't believe that they did that. I still look back and I'm like, "Oh my god, I cannot believe that they were I mean, in some ways so generous, and then in other ways so enabling to
Mm,
let me keep the pattern going."
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now, because that's I mean, so the reality of the situation is, if we're all being honest,
Yeah.
many people listening can probably resonate. I can resonate with your story of that bounce back and forth between, like, the credit card debt, right? You get
Mhm.
yourself into debt and either someone else or you work really hard to pay it off, and then
Yeah.
suddenly you find yourself in the cycle of debt, right?
Right.
So I'm assuming a lot of people can resonate with that story. So what
Mhm.
for you was turning point? There's a moment where,
Yeah.
like, it becomes like, "I can't do this cycle anymore," right?
Yeah.
Whether that's the parents stop bailing out or whether there's some other thing that happens. Did you have that moment where you were like, "I can't do this cycle anymore?"
Yeah, absolutely. Being a college student and being broke and having no dependents and all of that, like, asking my parents was sort of the one and only option that I had to turn to for help in those situations when I was, a bit younger. But once I was married and had a family,
Mhm.
it felt really wrong to sort of go back to mom and dad and try to ask for some sort of support. And unfortunately, the habits had never changed, right? Like, I didn't really learn a different way to manage money. There were no tools or skills that were given to me of like, this is how you better plan and better manage and better, stay in control of things. And I think that my parents thought and I thought that once I was out of college and earning six figures,
Mm,
that was the solution, right? You earn more money and now there's no money problems.
right.
Which through my decade plus now of working with people with money, I've very much seen is not the case, right? You cannot out earn poor money management behaviors and habits and like all of that we've sort of got ingrained that all we all have them. We all need to sort of overcome that and learn the skills and tools. And so I hadn't changed any of that. I earned more money and now I spent more money. I thought I had more freedom. I thought I had more flexibility to do that. And so, right out of college, I moved to Arizona the weekend of college graduation, got my first job here, met my to be future husband about 2 months after I landed in Arizona. And he he was not like quite so reckless, I would say, with money as I was, but he also was a spender. He didn't have like a lot of a plan or background around money. He grew up again, same thing, Midwest family. They didn't earn a lot of money in their family either, so he didn't have anyone to sort of teach him about money or model really good, wealth building skills or anything like that. So we both came into this sort of with the like, you earn money, you do okay with money. We're together now making a good income combined. We should be fine. That was just sort of how we dealt with it. And I mean, we were okay. We were earning, I don't know, 150 to $200,000 probably combined at the time. This was early 2000s, so like decent money, and we were like, "All right, we're good." And we would go on vacations and put it on a credit card and then like think we were going to pay it off, but then life would happen, right? Like that's just sort of what happens is life keeps happening. You have all the best of intentions, and so we had credit card debt, but it felt manageable until
Mm.
it didn't, right? And I think that's what happens for a lot of people is that there's a point where it just doesn't, and that point for us was in 2013 when my husband got laid off. So he lost his job.
Mm.
I was working part-time at the time because our boys were 1 and 3 years old, so this was a couple years after we had met. We had a couple babies right away, did all the things, and so he lost his job. And I thought, "Oh my god, like, we've got credit card debt. We thought it was manageable, but now without this income, so I'll work more," right? So that was our solution is that I would start working more, he would watch the kids, we would somehow get ahead of this, and it was like with all of the best of intentions, we thought we'd be okay, we thought it'd be a couple months, he'd have a job again, and he went into a really severe depression. And what we thought would be a couple of months wound up being a couple of years. And it was absolutely devastating for us. It financially ruined us. Even with me working extra overtime,
Mm.
things were landing on the credit card. And once that snowball starts rolling, it's really hard, really, really hard to get it turned around. And so it just got to the point where I thought, "We're gonna get divorced. We're gonna file bankruptcy." Like, it was so bad. There was so much tension in our relationship. We were arguing and fighting all of the time. One, because I was working, like, 60 or 70 hours a week trying to keep us afloat and was just exhausted,
Right.
and I was managing all of the money and saw the financial state that we were just getting worse and worse every month despite all of the effort that I was putting in, and it was just absolutely horrible. And that I mean, that was the breaking point. It's like we were at the bottom, It's like we were going to probably get divorced, we were probably going to file bankruptcy. It felt like the whole world was crashing in on us, and I finally broke down and shared with a friend what was going on
Right.
because you don't want to share about how bad things are, right? You don't want to talk about that with someone else, especially around money. It's like so taboo. You don't want someone to know that you're like struggling and you should have it figured out, right? On
Right.
on the surface, it looked like we had made it, We were college graduates, we had good jobs, we were supposed to be doing everything right. So it was so embarrassing and shameful to say we're failing.
Right.
But I finally broke down. I called my friend bawling, telling her, "We're gonna we're gonna probably get divorced. We're probably gonna file bankruptcy. It's so bad. I don't see a way out." And she said, "Well, I have someone I think you need to talk to." And that person was a financial coach. And it was the person that I've actually had worked with for 8 years up until recently. And that decision to call that financial coach and to actually say, "I think we need help with this. I think we need someone that clearly knows more about money than we do
Right.
to see what our options are and to maybe give us a better way."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, I feel like your story, people are probably nodding along in some form or fashion because I do find that in relationships, money can be a very tense point. We know that a lot of divorces are often because of money issues.
Right.
Right. And so I feel like, again, that's a very common thing. And I think, even to your point, even if it's not about money, there's the stories that we get trapped in are often we get trapped in them because there's this isolation, there's this shame, there's this feeling of I should know better. I should be able to
Right.
figure this out on my own. And so not only are you digging yourself a hole, whether that's in regards to finances or maybe you're drinking or there's food or there's something
Mhm.
else going on where you're struggling, but it's because you start to dig yourself a hole, the shame hole of like,
Right. Yeah.
so you've got the actual practical, tangible things that are going on, and then you've got like the shame and emotion. And I always say to people, putting shame and guilt and blame on top of what's already going on just makes the burden heavier. It makes
Yeah.
you feel like you're already carrying the weight of the world, and then you put some more weight on top of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, when you told your friend, did it feel like a weight was lifted from you in some way, or was it
I
later once you started working with Kelsa?
I I think it was the beginning of a weight being lifted. I think there was something that felt a little bit less like I was carrying this big secret all to myself, right?
Right.
So that sort of is how it had felt for so long of like, my husband knew, but he also mentally he wasn't in his best shape at that time. So like his emotions and everything he needed to be working on. And he didn't really know anything more about money than I did, So like he wasn't well equipped to solve it. So we would talk about money, but it was in a very non-constructive way. So it's like he was the only person that I could share it with up until that moment, and then finally sharing it with a friend sort of was like, like, "Okay, it's out there. It's out in the world. Someone else knows it. I've acknowledged it. I've spoken life into it.
Right.
Now I can do something about it."
Right.
So I think in that respect, it was like, now that I've actually said it, I have to do something.
Right.
And and that definitely was the turning point, right? So it did propel me into action.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
There's something about not having to carry it alone. I'm thinking back to us working together
Yeah,
and being able to feel like, okay, I'm sharing the burden. You know what I mean?
right.
I don't have to carry this by myself.
Yeah,
And so
uh,
tell me how working with a financial coach changed your life.
yeah. I mean, I just look back and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's just pretty wild what much life has changed since back then." My very first session with her, I booked without talking to my husband.
Mm.
I put on a credit card that was nearly maxed out because we had no money to actually pay for coaching. So it was sort of this like maybe wild and reckless leap of faith that I was taking in that moment of like, I need someone else to help with this. I had this very clear acknowledgement that the answers were not within myself, right?
Right.
Like I had been trying everything I possibly could and knew. I was spending so much time and energy on it. And so the first session I still remember that I had with her, my husband came along, so he didn't know that I did this, he was sort of begrudgingly coming along with it because he was like, "Why are we paying someone? We have no money. I can't believe that we're spending money to have someone tell us what to do with money when we don't have any." Like, it just, like, cognitively doesn't make a lot of sense, but I knew I needed a third party, and that very first session, I just remember crying the entire way through it, just uncontrollable tears, and it sort of became our ongoing joke because the first several months were like that, honestly. Like, we would meet in person, I would show up to the coaching session, she would grab her box of tissues and pass it across the desk because it was just I was gonna cry, you know?
Yeah.
And it was not like tears of despair, it was tears of hope and of relief of, like, finally, there's someone here that can hear this and that I can talk about this with and that can offer me solutions and tell me what the next step was. And I mean, the very first session, I just left and I was like, there is hope. There is hope for us. Maybe we're not doomed. Maybe it's not all over. Like, I didn't really know exactly what to do yet, but I like knew that it wasn't as bad as what I had thought it was.
Right.
And so I was like, we need more of this help without a doubt. So yeah, we signed up for more coaching again on a credit card that I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna have room for her to be billing me on this card. Let's be real, but we're gonna try it. And I was determined. Once I had someone helping me to sift through all of the options out there and all the things to consider and could just tell me, focus on this one thing,
Right.
I was like, nothing's gonna stop me because I cannot survive like this. I can't live like this anymore. This isn't how I was meant to function in the world. Like, I can learn this skill, but I need someone to show me the way.
Right.
And I did. I did everything that she said to do, everything. I did not question it. I just did it. I was like, I am turning this around. If you say this is going to work for me, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to resist. There was probably 18 months of like really hard, like saying no to a lot of things, making a lot of sacrifices, working extra, but I was working extra and knowing that it was actually making a difference. And before I had been working extra and it wasn't showing any progress. So it felt like it was all for nothing. But within 18 months, I mean, we had paid off, I think, like $86,000 worth of
Wow.
debt.
Wow.
Insane. Insane. Yeah, insane. Within a month, our relationship was already getting better. We were communicating more proactively. We weren't fighting as much. I wasn't feeling as much stress. So it's like, even though there was sacrifices and hard things over that period of time, the stress was nothing compared to the stress that I had been carrying on my own before that. And by that, like, 18-month mark, I was like, "Oh my god, like, this just changed our lives." Like, it saved our marriage without a doubt. It saved us financially. I was like, "I'm never going back," and I just thought, "I need to help more people with this exact same thing." Like, that was really where my entire world sort of opened up, where I was like, "Wow, I've learned this skill that sort of felt like it was a secret skill." I went to college for 9 years.
Right.
No one taught me any of this stuff about money. I learned how to do this profession. I learned all the book skills that I needed for it, but the practical life skills that every single human needs, because we all deal with money in everything that we do.
Yeah.
And like you said at the beginning, it ripples into every other aspect of our life: owning a business, your relationships, buying a house, the lifestyle that you have, the confidence that you have, right? And I just thought, I I need to help people with this now because I've seen it firsthand, like the difference that it made in my life. And so that was when I started to make the transition into coaching myself.
Okay. So as you're working with Helsa, obviously there are shifts and there are changes that are happening for you. I think that it's interesting because I know you've had a fitness journey as well, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's parallels between the two.
For sure.
And it makes so much sense to me that you've also been very successful in your fitness journey based on what I know about you from like the financial journey, right? But I think there's a moment in all of these transitions that we have, whether it's with our finances, there's like identity work that has to be done where
Mhm.
we start to shift those stories and we start to see ourselves differently and we start to tell ourselves new stories about who we are and the world and money and food and fitness and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So, as you were doing that work, what stories started to shift for you? How did you start to see yourself differently? What was the story you started telling yourself about who you were with money?
Yeah. I absolutely believe that there's an identity shift 100% for anyone that goes from a state of like in and out of debt constantly to someone that is on a trajectory to build wealth, right? They're two very different identities. And I think that before I worked with Kelsa, before I had my own coach and like learned these skills, my identity around money was filled with shame. Like, everything that I did, I felt regret about. And I had evidence of that, right? So it's like you think about all of the cognitive inputs that we get of like the actions that we take create that result. And my results were your bank account is overdrafted. You've got, you know, collections calling you because you haven't paid your credit card bill. Like there was all of these very negative inputs reinforcing this identity that I'm bad with money.
Right.
And so initially, it definitely was not an internal sort of identity shift that I was aware of that was happening, but there was all of this very tangible evidence building, supporting this idea that I do good things with money now, right? That I make good decisions with money, that I'm smart with money, like that my bank account was growing. My savings was growing. For the first time ever, I had a savings. Like, I don't think I ever actually had a savings account until then, or maybe it had like $50 in it just because the bank required me to have something. So it was like all of these little small deposits that shift your brain because you have more and more evidence showing you now all your bills are paid on time. I wasn't stressing about it. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't at the cashier and like worried about what things I might have to like take out of my cart because I wasn't going to have enough money. It just all sort of builds over time. And I think it's kind of the cool thing about money is that there is sort of tangible evidence. You can see the difference in your bank account, right? So I know you mentioned like the physical side, which we can see in the scale or the way that our clothes fit or the performance in the gym or, how fast we can run a mile or whatever that is. But with money, it really is like I could look at my bank account and see, okay, I used to have 0 or negative,
Right.
and now I can see that it's growing and growing. I'm not getting alerts about bad things. And so all of those inputs started telling me you're good with money. And the
Right.
more evidence that I had and I could keep saying, you're good with money, you're good with money, you're good with money,
Right.
it started to shift that belief and identity of who I was in the financial realm of my life. And once I had that base of like, I'm good with money, I make good financial decisions, then I could start entertaining like, wow, I wonder if like I could actually do more with my money, like
Right.
more than just pay the bills, more than just plan for a vacation and not put it on a credit card, but could I actually build wealth, which was something that like I dreamed of, right? I think most people are like, I'm going to be rich someday, I'm going to be wealthy, I'm going to have a good retirement or whatever. I'm going to make my money work for me. I hear that all the time from people, but we don't really actually know how to do that
Right.
and so it sort of gave me this permission to say, well, now I can start learning about these other things and entertain it.
Right.
And then it's like sort of even more of an identity shift that happened, like beyond I'm good with money, but like now I'm someone who builds wealth.
Yes. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is little by little, a little becomes a lot. And
Mm,
I am such a big believer in making small shifts in your life. And
yeah,
then those small things, obviously, they compound over time and they lead to often a big shift, right?
right.
And
Mhm.
so what you just described is exactly what I would when I work with a client or something around certain beliefs. It's like, okay, let's just do little things to start to
Right.
drop them in the proof jar of who you are as a person, right?
Mhm.
And then suddenly someone will see some sort of bigger shift. And it didn't happen overnight. It's not like this overnight
Right.
success. It's because they've been compounding things over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I look at that shift and I'm like, wow, that happened over a decade. It wasn't like one day I was bad with money and the next day I was someone who is like, I am a woman that builds wealth. No, that would have been like way too big of a leap.
Yes.
But over a decade of that little action evidence, it builds and builds and slowly you just see, I don't know, your whole perspective and who you are becomes something new.
Right. Because if I would have said to the Jill who first sat down with Kelsa, "Okay, now we're gonna be talking about real estate." It would have felt too
Right.
overwhelming, right? And that's why I talk a lot about nervous system safety in terms of
Right.
making sure that the identity of who you want to be, like, you have the container to fit that identity
Exactly.
inside of it, and that's making sure that your nervous system feels safe holding those bigger identity shifts, right?
Right.
And the other
Yeah.
thing you said that I wanna point out, not only is there the practical and tangible, but there's a feeling shift that happens.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm thinking about when we work together and when, we have the accounts that you put the money in for when a
Mhm.
car repair comes up or when a vacation comes up or something. I can remember the first time after we were working together when car repair came up and I, like, had the money. I was like and, like, nothing else in my life had to shift or change because I
Right.
already had the money. I feel this here,
Yeah. I know, I'm like, I can feel it too, yeah.
right? So, there was then a different feeling of engaging with my money. Like, I was like,
Right.
normally, I would have started panicking.
Right.
Now I feel calm. So that
Right.
also teaches your
Yeah.
system, "Hey, this is different. You're dealing with money, and this is a good feeling that you're getting,"
Right.
right?
Right.
versus you're dealing with money and it's a panic feeling or it's a
Exactly.
terror feeling, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Healing component as well.
It definitely is so different to have that, like, feeling of safety, that feeling of security, that feeling of, like, pride sort of like, "Wow, I was ready for this thing that happened." It definitely is just such a different shift compared to, like you said, the car breaks down and it's just, like, panic, and once you put those new tools in place and learn a different system, now it does, like, really regulate the nervous system because
Yep.
you can say, like, "Well, now I can calmly sort of look at the situation that would have once spiraled me out. I can evaluate my options, I can see what's available to me," and I think the more times that that happens, right, where you're having that positive experience,
Mhm.
it sort of fuels you to want more of that, right? It, like, fuels you to be like, "Wow, this feels so good. I wanna keep doing this thing because I never wanna feel that panic that I used to feel." Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I wanna kind of go back and circle up to
Yeah.
old story was, go to school, get a good job, work hard, make 6 figures, you'll be good, you'll be set.
Yeah.
What do you believe now after having been through your story and now the work that you do? What do you believe about money, worth, hard work, success? What's the new story?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's still a story being written, right? It's
Right.
one that's evolving along the way. I definitely am currently writing the story around hard work.
Mhm.
I think that that is one that was very ingrained in me of like, you must work hard. There's just so much tied up in self-worth
Right.
around how hard you work. And I don't know if that was just my Midwest upbringing or what. Like it was sort of our like very ingrained of like work hard, work hard, work hard. But I I think that working hard has been a recipe for a lot of unhappiness and a lot of, I don't know, like seeking approval in ways that like don't actually mean anything. I don't know. So it definitely is something that's still very much I'm breaking free from it but I do think that was, like, part of that story of, like, work
Right.
hard, get a degree, then you get in the corporate world, and the corporate world, the expectation is that to be successful, to move up, to be appreciated, to be recognized, you are grinding, right? It was, like, the corporate culture for sure, and I did that for 11 years, and then when I made the shift into financial coaching, it was very different. It was very freeing, very nice, really, like, very lovely, and I carried that grind within me. Like, I didn't leave it behind, even though the environment didn't necessarily necessitate me doing that. Like, I didn't have to prove myself in that way because I wasn't in the corporate world so much, that I had still attached a lot of my own worth
Mm.
to the grind.
Right.
And so I would like find ways to do more work, or I would create more work for myself, or find new projects to create so that I could constantly be busy with something.
Right.
And I feel very clear at this stage of life that my worth is definitely not tied to grinding,
Right.
that that is not something I identify with. I don't connect with that at all. But I'm definitely still rewriting this busyness story for myself of am no longer busy and I need to train myself in that, but also like every person that's ever met me because everyone looks at me that way and I'm trying to break their perceptions too, which feels like quite the task.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really the busy tied to worth and productivity. I mean, I think it's a US thing. And I also think if we're around the same age, I think that we were all fed that go to school, get a good job, get a
Right.
degree, get a good job. You'll be set. Get
Right.
your 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and you'll be
Yeah.
set. It's just not really the world that we live in uh,
Right.
anymore. And nor I don't even know if it was ever the world that we were supposed to live in. Right. So
Yeah. Definitely not supposed to, but it definitely was the expectation for a long time, right? So,
yes, yes.
yeah.
And I find with a lot of women, there's a lot of perfectionism that gets tied in up into that
Mhm.
productivity, hard work,
Right.
a lot of proving through productivity, right?
Right.
So,
Mhm.
I don't know if that
Mhm.
resonates at all with you.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, that 100% feels like my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're in a phase where you've shifted money stories. You have
Mhm.
new identities around money and wealth, and now you're shifting more of the worth and value tied to productivity and busyness stories, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Always a constant evolution.
It is always, yes, there's like new levels of things,
Yeah.
right, to
Right.
face. Yeah. So I guess I'm curious because even when we shift stories, we can get triggered and potentially find ourselves backsliding. Was there ever a backslide around the money piece of things, or has it just been kind of smooth
No,
sailing since?
I mean, nothing is smooth sailing, right? Like, I want to be very clear for anyone that is listening because I hear this from clients a lot who have this perception that I am always good with money now,
Mhm.
and that is not true.
Right.
That will never be true of anyone. No one is going to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. I think that, we all face our temptations or whatever that may be. So there's definitely times where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I probably, like, overspent or shouldn't have done that thing or made the wrong decision." The thing that has helped is knowing how to do it right, right? Like, I have the tools in place, I have the systems in place, I know how to self-correct a little bit more quickly now that I've got those skills, so it's not that I never fall off course, there's always this sort of, like,
Right.
on the right path and then off the path and then back pull yourself back onto the right path again, and it's because of the habits that I've built, the tools that I have to support me, the knowledge that I have now that I didn't have before, where it makes the self-correction a bit easier, where I, like and the identity shift too, like, I don't allow myself to just totally abandon it all. I'm not just gonna, like, totally stop being this person who manages their money and cares about it and wants to make good decisions. I'm someone who does. So even when I do the wrong thing, which I do sometimes,
Right.
I know how to bring myself back. Like, "Okay, Jill, you sort of, like, went a little crazy."
Right.
Right? And now we need to self-correct and pull back. So I think it is the habits that we build and the identity that we build really helps support it when we do fall, you know, fall backwards.
Right. So it's the foundational things that you set
Mhm.
up for yourself that allow you to course correct more easily when you
Right.
go off track. And that's why
Mhm.
I really feel like those foundational things, those foundational beliefs about who you are, the foundational actions that you take, because
Mhm.
then they become autopilot. They become
Right.
the subconscious wiring, the things that get ingrained. And when you go off track, it's like your brain starts to bring you back to that
Right.
track that you've laid, right? Which is
Right.
why the consistency and shifting those small things is so important.
Yeah. I think, like, the little things matter so much more than we wanna give them credit for. Like, it seems so inconsequential or so, like, tedious maybe, some of the, like, little behaviors that we do. And it's like those little behaviors are the safety net. They are what support us. They're what keep us
Right,
from totally falling off track. So in any area of life, I think. So it's like building those small little things that we can do and do it for a very, very long time, which feels very not sexy.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think
It's
it
not
boring,
fun. It's like
mundane.
super boring. It is. It's like the things that create the best results oftentimes are the things that are the most boring thing, and you just sort of have to be like, "Oh, this is just I am someone who's good with my money, and as someone who's good with my money, I update my budget, I pay attention to my bills, I plan for the things that are coming up, just like, being in the gym as an athlete, it's like I go to the gym and I train and eat well and all of that, like,
Right,
there's just certain behaviors that support that identity that
exactly.
aren't fun and they're not sexy, but they are the thing that makes all the difference.
Yes, I was gonna say, and I don't know if this is embarrassing or not, but I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
I check and fill out my spreadsheet every single day still.
Yeah,
I still use it.
definitely.
The one that you set up for me
Ah,
7 years ago.
yeah,
I've showed it to, like, my bookkeeper and accountant. They're like, "Whoa." They're, like, impressed that,
Yeah,
like, I have all of that, like,
the
tracked,
detail, yeah.
right? So, it just is a normal part of my day, right? Where I
Mhm.
just literally every single day, and it's not from a place of I'm worried, it's
Right.
just what I do, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
I know, I mean, it's not something to be embarrassed about, I do it every day as well, but I find it to be really grounding. I
yes,
find it to be really freeing. I It gives me so much confidence and so much peace of mind. I don't feel panic when I open the bank account because I know exactly what's going to be there. There's just something that is so liberating about it, and it, like, overflows into how you behave and act and feel about all the things that you're doing throughout the rest of the day or the rest of the week when you're like, yeah, I know that I can go to dinner with my family, or I know I can go shopping, or I can, book that vacation, and you feel total peace about it,
right.
total confidence about it. Like, it's wonderful.
Yeah, very grounding is what when you said that, it just feels like there's no open loop in my mind around, like you said, the surprises. It's like, "Okay,
Right,
I've checked my accounts today, and I know what's there, and I know what's happening, and I know what's coming," you know?
right.
And
Mhm,
so I don't have this open loop in my mind that's, like, leaving room for worry or anxiety, right?
right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, well, if someone is listening and they can resonate with your story and they want to make a change around finances, money, but they're feeling overwhelmed with where to start, what would you say to someone who's at the very beginning of their journey?
Oh gosh, I mean, obviously you can reach out to me. So, I'm like, I can help with that, but I can't help everyone. So, I I mean, I think that there's so much peace in actually seeing everything. So I think that's one thing that is so helpful, and a lot of people just are very fearful about actually looking at all of their money, opening all of their accounts, seeing where all their credit cards are at. There's power in knowing, right? So I think anyone that is thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so overwhelmed with my money. I'm feeling so stressed about it." The very first step is being really honest about where things are at, looking at it, putting it all in one place. Like, the more that you avoid it, the bigger of a boogeyman it becomes, right? It grows in its fear and its power over you. And so once you actually look at it, you can do something about it. You can take control over it. Write it down where it's tangible and out of your head. Because again, it's like we need to see it. We live in a world where the system is set up against us. It really is. Money is no longer tangible, and that works against our brains. It does not help us to be successful. So we need to create ways to make it tangible. So writing them all down, seeing them, knowing what bills come out of your paycheck coming up so that it is very simple and you can just say boom boom boom, those are done. I don't have to think about it and pay it all on payday, right? So that it's out of the account and done. Very simple. Second step is your day-to-day spending, and I recommend a second account for that, the spending account. So, definitely, I recommend that helps people so much. So, anyone that is thinking, "I'm so stressed about money and I'm always overspending," right? I hear this from people all the time. It's like one of the number one things they say is, I'm overspending," but they don't actually have a number that they think they're supposed to be spending or that's, like, real about how much they should spend. So your groceries, your eating out, your gas, all of those miscellaneous things that happen throughout the week, total it up and open a whole separate checking account where every payday you transfer a set amount into it, and that is the account you spend from. It makes such a huge difference. Those 2 changes alone make people feel so much more in control of their money because they know all of my bills and my payday comes in. I know what the bills are that are coming out of this paycheck. I can pay them right away on payday and I don't have to think about anything for 2 weeks. I
Right,
can move a set dollar amount into a separate account. That is the one that I spend from. And now there's just like not that much more that you have to think about during
right,
that pay period. It's so liberating, right? And then the third piece is what you had talked about is those savings buckets of let's use what's left over to prepare for what's coming up. Let's save for vacations. Let's save for clothing or for gifts or for car repairs,
right,
home repairs, right? And I think that is the most foundational piece of managing money. And it's like we have to have that foundation in place to really be able to do anything else
right,
financially. Like, if you don't have a good system, everything else will fall through the cracks.
right, right. the thing about the savings buckets for me is that what I loved was it was saving a small amount each month, a
Mhm.
smaller amount. So it's like
Right,
I'm transferring $500 every single month to my savings account. I was maybe transferring $50.
right,
So then by the time that I needed the money, it had accumulated, but it hadn't
right,
felt so big. It wasn't like I was taking a big
right.
every single month, but it
Yeah,
accumulated. And I think that that makes it so much more manageable is that you're not
yeah.
transferring this big chunk of money every single month. You're transferring smaller amounts of money.
Exactly. It makes it more approachable. We want the system to be sustainable. Like, it has to be sustainable or it's
Like
never going to work.
like
And I think
7 years
this
later, you're still using
right,
it.
you're still using it because it's so easy, it's so sustainable, it works, right? And I think the thing that gets so many people is that they wanna start off so strong. We all want change immediately. We live in this world of, like, immediate gratification. We're, like, seeking it. And I see this with people with their money, like, if they want money in savings, they wanna put so much in savings right away,
Right,
and they don't have the patience to let it grow. And they might do that, but then a few weeks later or a month later, they're like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm short for these bills because I put all that money in savings." They wind up having to pull it right back out again. And so it creates actually this very negative cycle. It's actually doing the exact opposite of what you want because it's reinforcing this idea of I'm someone who can never keep money in savings,
right,
right? Because you put it in, but then you have to pull it right back out. Same thing with people that are trying to get out of debt. And this is another one I see all the time where it's like people are throwing everything extra they can towards their debt, which feels like the right thing to do, but they're not saving for those upcoming expenses with the savings buckets.
right.
And so when any of those expenses come up, they have to go on the credit card. There's no other option, right? So they throw a whole bunch at the credit card and then they have to turn right around and use the credit card again. And so again, it creates this very negative reinforcement where you're constantly in the cycle of I can never get out of debt. I get out of debt, but I put myself right back in. So we're reinforcing this identity of I'm bad with money. I'm bad with money. And so it is something where I wish that I could paint this picture of like, you can put a plan in place with your money, and 3 months later, you're going to feel totally different. It's going to be amazing. You can feel much less stressed within a few weeks. Like, truly, you can. But is it going to be like night and day different in 3 months? I mean, from a tangible perspective, like, you're going to be starting to go in the right direction, but like 6 months, 9 months, a
Right.
year,
I was gonna
3
say, I was
years.
thinking back, I was like, after 6 months, I really felt much different. I
Hmm.
think the first 3 months for me, at least, felt like, there were the tears, there was the shame, there was the guilt, there was, "I'm never gonna be able to do this," right?
Right. Yeah.
The grief, and then it feels like that once the 3-month period, it was like, "Okay, I can do this,"
You
and
can
then it
do it.
becomes a longer term,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and that's honestly the timeline that I see very often with clients. It builds over time, and it starts to make a massive impact.
right. What I find is that because I'm working with the subconscious, big shifts really can be made very quickly.
Yeah.
But because our subconscious, I think of it like if you have a boat. Okay, so if your finances are the boat and the subconscious is the river that's kind of like floating the boat. So if you shift like how quickly the river is going, like you can get to where you're going faster. And so that's like what but you still have to look at the boat and, does the boat have a hole in it? Does the boat, like need some
Yeah.
repairs, right? That's really to me like the practical action steps.
Right.
It's both. If you
Right.
work with things subconsciously, it can speed things up. But if you don't
For
have the
sure.
practical things in place, then it slows things down. And so
Right.
that's why I've sent people to you and things because I love the work that I do with the river and
Mhm.
the subconscious, but I also know that it's going to accelerate a lot faster for people if they have
Right.
practical things in place, right?
Mm. Yeah, I love that analogy of the hole in the boat because it's like no matter what, like, they can be going faster, but they can't keep, like, shoveling water out of the boat forever and expect not to experience some struggle with that,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had a client who we had one session and she had her first 20K month afterwards, which was amazing. She'd been struggling
Incredible.
with money things, right? But the thing is, people hear that, like, "Oh my god, that's incredible, like, hypnotherapy is magic," and I'm like, "No, she had already been showing up daily in her business consistently every
Right,
single day. She had already grown an audience. She already had offers in place. It was just a subconscious worth and value thing that was holding her back from fully
right,
expressing her work, and once she had that in place, then it popped off, right?
right.
So, it's both
Yeah.
things tandem, right?
Exactly, exactly. It's like you need to be doing the actual actions and work to put
Yeah.
everything in place, but as long as you're doing that, the hypnotherapy can make a massive, massive impact along with it, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you sharing your own story and
Yeah.
sharing some practical things that people can do to start to shift their own money story as well.
Yeah, awesome. It was so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a privilege.
If anything Jill shared today resonated with you and you want to connect with Jill, and I highly recommend that you do because I can't promise you many things, but I can promise you that working with Jill will change your life. I'm getting tears in my eyes as I say that
Aw.
because I think about how much working with her changed my life. You can head to moneycoachjill.com or check the show notes and I'll link all of her information there. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Well, guys, that's all for us today. I hope that this was helpful, and conversations like this remind us that the stories we grow up believing don't have to define who we become. I'm sending you so much love and gratitude. Until next time. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to send me a message on social media. I'm at the Allie Rose on both Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to be coached on a future episode or explore what it would look like to work with me one-on-one, head over to shiftyourstorypodcast.com. And if you never want to miss an episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review. It helps more people find this work. Until next time, keep shifting, keep growing, and most importantly, I want you to remember that your story isn't set in stone. You always have the power to shift it.